Good evening, and welcome to the 16th Annual Virtual Open House. We have all of the school districts and institutes participating in the national initiative connected to our conference this evening. I'm here with the national seminar leaders in the initiative offices overlooking the New Haven Green and the Yale campus. Dan HoSang will describe his seminar on teaching about race and racism across the disciplines. Dan?
Thanks, Jim. Hi, everyone. I thought I would say just a little bit about my own background and research and teaching interests, as it helps to kind of explain how this seminar is constituted. So my appointment is in a unit called Ethnicity, Race, and Migration and American Studies here at Yale. I have a secondary appointment in political science. My own research and teaching is on racial politics in the US, but also anti-racist social movements and race in the law. And my background before graduate school was as a community and labor organizer, particularly doing work, youth organizing work and education justice work. So this is an opportunity that's really central to my own research and teaching interests. This seminar, Teaching About Race and Racism Across the Disciplines, I think is appropriate for teachers in the humanities and social sciences, but also some life sciences, psychology and biology in particular, at the high school and middle school levels, and I think it's certainly possible for some, as I'll explain, elementary school teachers to develop curriculum units here. Why is it difficult to think about, or why do teachers might want to grapple with questions about how to teach about race and racism in disciplinary settings? There's a few reasons. I think first, we know that the curricula that teachers often inherit are standardized and hew to a narrative of colorblindness or race neutrality, in which the kind of default position of justice is not to recognize race. That's what it means to be unbiased and objective in some ways. So colorblindness as the dominant norm. Part of what we engage in the seminar is the ways that that very notion of colorblindness often serves to disavow, make it render invisible or difficult to understand long-standing relations of power. And in particular, that's because all of our disciplines that often grew up in the 18th, 19th, and early 20th centuries, have histories that are rooted in white supremacy and racial domination. This is true for literary studies, it's true for psychology, sociology, history, anthropology. They can't be divorced from political arrangements of domination and exclusion. So the seminar helps us together across disciplinary frameworks examine some of those histories. So we learn more about the kind of genealogies, about how these disciplines came to be. And then so we can think about how we can use their tools to remake them in service of being able to teach more competently about race and racism. Just to give you some sample of the curriculum units developed when this course was taught last year in New Haven, there was an AP US history teacher who was rightly concerned that the dominant AP US history curriculum made little mention of indigenous peoples and settler colonialism, and when it did, it was often through this inevitable narrative of conquest, survival, or extinction. And we really worked together to think about how you can center indigeneity in an advanced US history course. A middle school English language arts teacher who had to teach the same set of texts every year, in particular The Outsiders. Middle school ELA teachers know this book well, but to think about how to teach it not just as a study in character development, narrative, scene setting, etc., but to provide a much wider context for it. So thinking about histories of whiteness, eugenics, rankings, racial rankings within the category of white, to kind of broaden the social context through which a novel like that could be taught. And a high school English teacher developing an elective around what's called Afrofuturism, or thinking about, or Afrofuturity, thinking about Black science fiction as a way to explore questions of imagination and kind of collective reproduction. High school civics teachers who are typically tasked with teaching basic elements of the Constitution, but wanting to do it in constitutional norms through case laws around housing and school segregation, neighborhood histories, contesting those lines of segregation, etc. So sometimes I like to think of it as, in cooking shows, you have a recipe and you want to do a makeover of that recipe to get out the carbs or the calories or bring in more an element. We do that. We take an existing course and give it a makeover, but there's also the chance to kind of think about a new dish we might want to constitute and come up with together. And the last part I mentioned is that a big part of the class is exposing teachers, having people share resources, pedagogical approaches, different texts that they can use that are often drawn from other disciplines that help animate their own teaching. And in particular, this includes attention to how to write curricula. It's true for both university faculty and also for teachers. The how of writing curricula that can be shared, disseminated, that we can use to learn from one another is often not a stress. So we'll spend considerable time on that, the how to write curriculum as well. Thank you.